Cool. So yeah, today I'm really gifted to be joined by Shane, who is the co-founder over at Stargaze, which is a very hot, up-and-coming Cosmos NFT project, something that we're all looking forward to. Now that we see the DeFi space on Cosmos is really going viral at the moment with all the Osmosis and Gravity dexes and SIF chains. But NFTs are coming and they're coming big time. So we're going to be learning a lot today with Shane. Thank you so much for coming on today. How is everything going? I think in New York.
Yeah, I'm based in New York. Thanks for having me. I'm just super busy getting the chain launched and doing all the stuff we have to do to get this project going. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I also listened a little bit into the podcast you did recently on Chorus One with Felix and Xav. Really, really cool. I encourage everyone to check that one out as well. But you've been in the Cosmos space, or maybe you can start with the crypto space, but you're also an OG cosmonaut. So you're starting Cosmos, I think, in 2017. Maybe before we get into Stargaze and also the liquidity bootstrapping event coming up on Osmosis, very juicy things here, and airdrops maybe. Share a little bit about your Cosmos and crypto journey and how you got into the industry in the first place.
Sure. So let me see. So I first got into cryptography when I was in college, which is not really cryptocurrency. But then I bought Bitcoin kind of around 2012, like a lot of people. I remember reading about it in like Slashdot, and I've been building since kind of like the 90s, and I kind of started out as kind of like a hacker at that time, and I was like really proud. I was like, my people are still building stuff. They're still doing like super interesting things. But I was building on Web 2 and mobile at that time, and I was really kind of focused on really kind of clean UX kind of things, and Bitcoin really kind of wasn't there in terms of UX at that time, so I didn't really get into it then. Then 2017, there was just like all the smart people I knew were getting into Ethereum. So I was like, okay, if everyone I know that's really smart is getting into Ethereum, there's something here, right? So I started exploring and digging in. I had some friends who got me into it, and I was like, wow, this is super cool. Like people are just making like just all this amazing stuff. It's decentralized. They don't have to get permission from anyone. And before and the reason I think I really got into it is because I really got burnt in the iOS ecosystem. So I built when the iPhone first launched, I built a Yelp client, for Yelp.com, and they kind of hijacked my app, right? So I was using their API, and they like injected this like code into my API into the result saying to download their official app, right? So that was kind of like my lesson, like don't like build on third parties, because the third party can just like shut you out at any time they want. And also I had an iOS app called DrumKit that was doing really well, and then Apple came out with like GarageBand and just kind of killed it. And I was like, I want some kind of thing I can build on where the user is going to have ownership. There's no central party that can just come and knock you out, right? But the thing is, I wanted to build more like consumer-facing stuff. And on Ethereum mainnet, it was impossible at the time. Like scalability-wise, it's just not going to happen, right? So then I started kind of investigating all the scalability solutions. I worked on Ethereum Lightning a little bit, like Bitcoin Lightning, but an Ethereum version of it. And then couldn't get any funding for that. And then I discovered Cosmos through a friend, and I read the white paper. And while I was reading the white paper, I was like, this is it. This is how scalability is going to happen, because it just makes sense, right? We have 40 years of history of the internet showing that the way to scale is horizontally. You have a bunch of nodes that talk to each other over a TCP/IP like protocol, and I really liked kind of the modular architecture of the SDK, how consensus was separate from the application layer, and just how clean it was. And then because of that, I joined this startup called True Story, which is it was one of the first startups that were kind of like building with the SDK, but it was so early, you know, it was like 2018. And the SDK was constantly changing while we were building on it. We did like a bunch of test nets, and we were like upgraded the chain while we were working on it. But then the bear market happened, right? And it was a very long bear market from 2018 till like the end of 2019, and it was building on Cosmos at that time. There was no Osmosis yet, right? So there was no way to like easily launch a token. You had to like make deals with centralized exchanges and all this stuff like that. And so it was really hard to launch mainnet at that time. So so the project kind of disbanded at the end of 2019. And then I teamed up with Jorge, who's my other co-founder, and Jake, who's another friend of mine. And then we started working on Stargaze. And but Stargaze itself went through kind of like 2 or 3 pivots to what it is now. And I can talk about that process too, if you want to
talk about this and spend a lot of time, obviously, in the design features and architecture of Stargaze, what problems it resolves. I read your blog post also. We can get into that a little bit later about social networks and the future of it. And yeah, I think it's very exciting, like impressive, the kind of like the track record you have, and you really talk from experience, because I think a lot of founders in the crypto space, they just see a fast growing industry and they kind of like want to position themselves somehow, right? But you truly come from the web 2, you know the flaws, you've been working on it, you got wrecked also with iOS and what you told. So I think that's a different angle that you're coming from, way deeper. But let me get a little bit back to Cosmos. So you said you read the white paper. Was it 2016, 17? I guess something around that time.
2017, yeah.
2017. So what was it then? You said the whole architecture that got you hooked. But how is that? How did you initially start? Like, did you just hook up with other developers, or what was your first kind of like entry point into the Cosmos ecosystem and the Cosmoverse?
It was almost an accident. So at True Story, because it was a social thing, we had to build it on a scalable platform, and we started building on this thing called Loom network at that time. And then so Loom, I guess you can think of it as like an Ethereum sidechain. I think it was like a fork of Ethermint at that time, an old version of Ethermint, which is now changed into Evmos, right? But yeah, I was building on top of that, and I didn't know I didn't even know it was built on Cosmos at that time. We were doing Solidity and working on top of Loom, and then I realized that the port numbers were exactly the same as Tendermint for the node. And I was like, and then I started looking into it deeper, and I realized that it's just built on top of Tendermint. And then Zaki was one of the advisors at True Story, and then he was recommending that we build on a Cosmos SDK too, and then just kind of both of them kind of collided, and my developer experience was like telling me, oh, I should just build on the SDK directly, and then Zaki was there too, and I was like, all right, let's just build on the SDK, and that was the intro. Yeah.
So that's interesting. How would you compare in that context? Would you compare kind of like the whole Cosmos kind of like ecosystem, the project itself in that time, pre-IBC, pre all these features that we have now, right? COSMWASM just launched also. So what is how was the time back then, and how do you think is it now, and how much progress has Cosmos made over the years, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, back then we thought stuff will just happen in a few months. In like 2018 we thought IBC is just like 3 months away or something like that. But in retrospect, building this stuff is super hard, right? Building a generalized bridge is just amazingly difficult. It's a lot more work than like building a smart contract on Ethereum. So like in retrospect, I understand why it took so long. But one of the reasons I guess we kind of took a bet on this technology, because we did think it would move a little faster than it did.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think also, I mean, a lot of people have told me a similar story, and Jack also, and Zaki, I had them also here on, and they're like, we all wished we could ship it faster, but it just takes time. And eventually it shipped earlier this year in 2021. And then I think it took also a couple of months for it to kind of like bootstrap the first 10, 20, 30,000 active users through Osmosis. And now you see SIFchain, Juno, they're absolutely killing it. So everyone is waiting now for the next big killer application. And Stargaze might be the one, right? So we're really excited to see that coming. Now, with your background, at what point did you kind of like get interested in social networks? And you also made this tweet here in June 26th that the future of social networks will consist of three primitives: NFTs, social tokens, and DAOs. NFTs will replace content, social token ownership will replace the social graph, and DAOs will moderate and curate content. So you must be really kind of like excited about kind of like disrupting the way social networks function, the way content is distributed and shown on these sites. So at what point did you get interested in that, and what is your kind of like big vision and big ambition here?
I've been interested in that space for a while. Back in the Web2 world, I used to contribute to a lot of open source and a lot to Ruby on Rails. And Ruby on Rails was used for I made a Rails plugin for Facebook that let people make like Facebook apps and stuff like that. And then so I have a background working on like social adjacent stuff. And also just observing like misinformation, especially like around the election and stuff like that. And so that's kind of how I got into kind of that problem, and that's I think why I wanted to work at True Story as well. But then, in Web3 though, we're not quite there to connect all this stuff together. So in that tweet, I talk about NFTs and DAOs and social tokens, like they kind of have to happen in their own kind of period of time. I don't think we're ready to have them all like integrated yet, at least in the Cosmos ecosystem. The thing is, the important thing, the main primitive is content, right? You need content to have any kind of social network, right? You have to like stuff, you have to upvote stuff, right? And what is that stuff? The native content of Web3 is NFTs, right? So you have to have NFTs first. So all this like stuff that like this long-term goal for Stargaze, what I have like written out there so far is more like an end goal, but we're not ready for that yet. We have to just start with a killer NFT market first, and then once that has good amount of volume, then you can start adding this other stuff on top of it.
Yeah, and I think also for everyone who is maybe new to crypto and just joined this recent NFT hype that we saw earlier this year and throughout the year, basically, NFTs are way more than just expensive JPEGs, right? So much more. I mean, liquidity pairs on Uniswap V3 are NFTs, right? It's so much more than just expensive JPEGs where people are buying spending crazy amounts of money for. So I think in the same way, content is unique, avatars are unique. All these things how we move and identify and behave in the social world, in the online world, I think is all going to be more and more digitized. And NFTs just fundamentally change the nature of who owns what, and that's, I think, very exciting. But there's another aspect that I have not fully understand yet, and please explain it to me and to the audience, is the kind of like the DeFi aspect to it, right? Because as of my understanding, you have kind of like stars as the native underlying protocol coin or token, which secures the network, but also is this governance coin. And then backed by stars, content creators or influencers can issue fan tokens, which are backed by stars. Is that how it works? And how does the yield generation function? Maybe you can explain that concept a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the social tokens are not going to be there on launch. On launch, we're purely going to be focused on NFTs, but we're going to add incentives around NFTs and NFT bidding. I think that's one of the unique aspects of building on a Cosmos chain, because you have inflation as a primitive, you have staking as a primitive, right? and you can do new things with NFTs that you just can't do on Ethereum. I think it would be a shame if people just made like just a very simple NFT market on Cosmos. Is That's not too hard to do. Any competent developer can probably make a basic NFT market in a couple of weeks. It's about using. It's about like building incentive mechanisms around it. So you can. So we're working on a bunch of stuff that's like super interesting. I don't want to give like too much of it away. But if let me say, like, if you like Osmosis, if you like, coming back, every day and like checking on the rewards and all that kind of stuff, I think you will also love kind of what we have around NFTs and NFT bidding and incentivized bidding and stuff like that. I think people are going to like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great observation. I think that's one of the best or main reasons why Osmosis is so successful, because everyone loves just at here at 6 p.m. Lisbon time to just stare at your wallet and boom, magically Osmo appear, and then you can reuse them, you can do things with it, you can swap them, or man, what's the latest strategy for Osmo rewards? And it's just very engaging and interactive. So I think that's a really cool feature here. But maybe on a bit of a higher level, you said first you also want to focus on the marketplace before you get into on the NFT marketplace before you focus on the social networks. But how, on a bigger kind of like higher view, on a higher level, how does IBC revolutionize the NFT space, right? Because now we have the OpenSeas, we have the variables, but they're pretty much in those silos on this very expensive chain, which is called Ethereum. But how does IBC come into play? We understand that Tendermint makes it faster and cheaper to settle transactions, but what does IBC make so unique about the NFT space?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think one of the first applications would be just being able to transfer NFTs among different chains. But what is more interesting than that is every chain is going to be unique in some way or form, right? And you can think of it as like if you have an NFT that's like a game asset, you can transfer it to like other chains that might have different games, but they use the same asset. I think it'll be used a lot for that kind of stuff. I know there's like Strange Clan and Passage 3D. There's like all these like super exciting projects that are coming out in the space. And in terms of DeFi, NFTs can be used as collateral in loans. They can also be fractionalized, right? And then when they're fractionalized into fungible assets, then those can be used in DeFi as well. And we're just at the very surface of kind of exploring these things. Yeah, there's just so much you can do. For example, you can have like like a name service where you have like an NFT that's your username, right? And you can fractionalize that into a social token. So there's just all this interesting stuff that you can do with it that we're just still at the very surface of.
So we already, and you also mentioned this in the article that you wrote, that there's going to be a liquidity bootstrapping event for the stars in the UST pool whenever that comes live. I think it's already approved by the community, but that should be sometime in October, right? So what is, besides kind of like the liquidity bootstrapping in the token, what is the go-to-market strategy? How you want to kind of like onboard the first user? You already teased a little bit. There might be something to kind of like have daily, things to play around with. So what are some other like fundamental on a product level ways how you want to attract the first kind of like, I don't know, 10,000 users maybe?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, we're first launching, focusing on the Cosmos community. And after the chain launches, we're gonna, the community is gonna want to do an LBP on Osmosis, and I think they're actually going to go with Osmo instead of UST, and it's going to be something where it's going to be agreement between both chains, between governance. So I think what we're looking to do is it's like a token swap. swap stars for Osmo, and then do the LBP with stars and Osmo. And so that'll be like a completely decentralized process between the governance of both chains. And that, will kind of like bootstrap the network, achieve kind of like a market value for the token. And then obviously we're going to do an airdrop, right? Like, what's a new Cosmos chain without an airdrop? So the airdrop, we're going to use snapshots that are very recent. Actually, looks like October 11th is the snapshot that we're going to use. So the airdrop is going to go to Atom stakers, Osmo liquidity providers, and people that delegate to Stargaze, which is the validator that we run on Cosmos Hub, Osmosis, and Region Network.
All right, that's a lot. That's really cool. And I think this Cosmos airdrop season began actually with Osmosis itself, right? With a February 18th snapshot. Juno as well did one there, but since then we've seen a couple of airdrops. And also I think that's my guess, we'll see much more refined airdrops, because I mean, airdrops in the end of the day, sure, we're all happy to get free money and, we're getting rich quick. But in the end of the day, for projects, I think it's a great way to onboard, like to onboard targeted users. I think that's what I want to say. Like to really say, okay, which people do I want to have on my platform first, right? So you get them the token, and then they're kind of like already curious to use the platform. And I think that's a great way to roll out the project and onboard the first users. And then, so the first thing, I guess, is going to be an NFT marketplace, right? Is there already kind of like a timeline? Do you already have artists, or what is going to be the first NFTs that we can expect to see there?
Yeah, so right now we're working with a bunch of artists. We're trying to onboard them, and we're also like building out the marketplace at the same time. And so after this, the way we're going to do is we're going to launch, the main chain has to launch first, and we're targeting end of October to do that. And then we're going to be uploading the functionality with COSMWASM contracts, and then trying to target the marketplace. Hopefully, will launch maybe like a month after the LBP, and then we're going to start doing then we're going to do our first drop, and we're probably going to do something like a drop a week, just to kind of get things going, and we're focusing really kind of we kind of want to set a standard for quality. So at least it's going to start out with like curated content. Yeah.
All right. And you just mentioned it, the COSMWASM integration. Can you talk a little bit about it? I think my viewers, and I haven't had the Config team on my show yet. I will get them very soon. But can you talk a little bit about this upgrade that just happened, what it means for you as a project, for Stargaze, and what are kind of like the most exciting features there?
Yeah, so CosmWasm is reaching 1.0 now. I think outside of Ethereum and Solidity, it's like the second or third biggest developer ecosystem now. I think Solana is kind of up there too. So it's so it's the second or third, and has gotten huge adoption by Terra. And I was actually in the initial team that brought CosmWasm to life. Along with Ethan Frey and Jihan and Pedro and Aaron from Region. We're just amazed that like it just blew up so much, and it totally makes sense. Like developers love building in Rust, I have no shortage of developers like coming to me and wanting to build on CosmWasm. So I think that's great. It has parity with Ethereum, right? So Ethereum has all these standards: ERC 721, ERC 20. And CosmWasm has like very similar kind of standards. and I think that if we're going to be like growing a team and if you want to move like really fast, I think that's a really great option. Yeah, it's nicer to build on.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of also Cosmos projects are eagerly waiting to upgrade to and implement, like Juno as well. Speaking of like other projects, what are some other Cosmos ecosystem projects? Because I think the coolest thing about Cosmos is like many teams are kind of like exchanging ideas, collaborating, sometimes even publicly on Twitter. Sometimes it gets a bit heated. But what are some of the projects that you are, I don't know, talking to, that you are familiar with very deeply, or maybe even have a partnership with Stargaze?
Yeah, so far, I've been just pretty like hyper focused on Stargaze. I think it's important to like build one thing well first, and then think about interoperability, because if you first, like, you need something to interoperate with first, right? So that's why we're kind of just focused on Stargaze, but like I have talked like a little bit with, like, Brent from Umi about possibly using NFTs as collateral. And then I'm aware of all the other, there's quite a there's a handful of other, like, NFT projects in the Cosmos ecosystem as well. Hopefully we can all settle on one standard for IBC, NFTs over IBC, and then we can all interoperate. And I know there's like the Inter NFT working group and like a bunch of others that are working on this.
Yeah, and you already earlier mentioned Strange Clan. I think they're also pivoted towards maybe a different kind of like niche, more gamification and games, virtual worlds, and those kind of things. And I think we have Cosmoverse on Juno coming up. Is there any others? I think there's one on Pylons Tech. I think those are the only ones that I can think about. But I think
there's also Omniflix. Yeah.
Omni,
yeah.
But I think they're focused more also to become like a media platform. But yeah, very interesting. I actually made a tweet today, I think, today, that we're doing this interview. And actually a lot of people have questions for you and a lot of engagement, so the people are definitely there. First thing is actually from Nacion Crypto, my friend Alex. He's also a big Stargaze friend. I didn't know that. He's actually not asking something. He's actually just telling you that he loves Stargaze. He's been in the beta from the beginning, and he would love to interview you on his channel. So I think later maybe we can make this happen.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
And then Jatin has a question, two questions actually. The first one is, can you elaborate more about the use case of the open social graph?
Okay, yeah. So I think he's talking about kind of our previous stuff, that we kind of pivoted from that, right? But I can talk about that a little bit. Before we pivoted to purely an NFT market, we had this kind of mechanism where everyone had their own social token, and the way you follow them is by buying their token. And then you kind of create this like open social graph based on token ownership. So right now, if you use something like Twitter or Facebook, it creates an algorithm for you, right? And it weighs, it puts weights on the post that you don't have any control over. But when you own social tokens, when you own someone's token, if you own, let's say I own more of your token than someone else's token, I will see more of your content on my feed, right? Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that's like coming. It's just that you need volume for anything like this to make sense.
Yeah. And in that context, you also had another question about the quadratic like system and whether there will be measures to filter out massive upvoting liking. I think that's kind of like the alluding to this like to earn. I think that's a great terminology, like to earn. So now this term play to earn got really big with Axie Infinity and all those gaming stuff. I think like to earn could actually be one of the next big things, because all that we do every single day on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter is like each other's content. but nobody gets paid for it. I think YouTube is
Yeah.
really like integrating this function to it as well. I saw like that you can directly send people money, kind of like rewarding them for creating good content. But how could you prevent kind of like bot attacks or spam in that context?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, something like civil resistance is very, very important when you do when you build something like to earn. I know Axie Infinity has a huge problem with this. Um, so for this to happen, you have to have like a good like identity kind of system in place, and that's something that we're going to be working on later. After the NFT market. But yeah, like to earn, liking something, the crypto native version of it is kind of like bidding, right? Bidding on NFTs is kind of like the crypto native version of liking. And also you can even think about in terms of like, staking. You can also maybe, stake on a piece of content as well, right? So we're, kind of thinking more of like, like crypto native ways of doing this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's a very hard thing and hard to, because those spams, and also I'm noticing after my YouTube videos, they get always like more refined, and they always find backdoors, like how they can stuff my comments full with like those weird WhatsApp numbers that people joining. And yeah, it's really hard to fully eliminate that. But I think there's going to be ways to kind of like at least massively mitigate it. Chaos Dragon has another question now, more towards the NFT marketplace. How are you going to differentiate Stargaze among other NFT marketplaces?
yeah. So it's still really really early, and every marketplace would have to kind of specialize in one way. If you look at Ethereum, all the marketplaces kind of serve a different kind of like niche, right? So you have like art blocks, which is focused on generative art. You have like you kind of like have OpenSea, which is kind of like for everything. Then you have like Foundation, Zora, they all have their own kind of personality and like different features. And I think that's going to happen in the Cosmos ecosystem as well. I think one of the biggest advantages, I guess, of building Stargaze as its own chain is because it can use all the characteristics of using inflation and using staking, and like build build some of the mechanics of that into NFTs. So I think that's something that's cool. And also it depends who the early creators and the early artists that are going to come on these platforms, right? Because they're going to bring their own community along with them, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how these kind of they all just end up like specializing. Like maybe one will be really good for like profile picture avatars, and one might do, I don't know, like cosmic punks or something like that. And then like we actually some of our artists for launch are going to be focused on generative art. So I think that might be one of our focus.
Mm. In that context, Antiquity also asked, are you going to headhunt major players like Beeple?
I think networks, the ones that last the longest, kind of start off organically. Um, if you look at like platforms that started off by getting the celebs, like if you look at BitClout, if you look at Clubhouse, right? They all like started off with a bang, and after a couple of months, they just kind of like fizzled out, right? I think it's better to start off with Stargaze will have its own creators, and maybe they will end up being big and famous one day, right? So I think it's important to start off kind of organically at first, and then maybe later on bring on like the celebs and stuff like that.
Mm. Desmond has also a question a little bit in that context. How will you filter or evaluate early stage NFT projects? I think especially in the kind of like launching phase, that's very important.
Yeah, we're gonna have a curation DAO, and the DAO is pretty much going to vote on what projects are going to mint on Stargaze, at least at first. because it's one of the advantages of building an NFT market on Cosmos is that gas can be super super cheap, right? So then people can mint anything they want. But if people can mint anything they want, then you'll also have a problem of uh, people just uploading crap, right?
Yeah.
So so uh, um, so at first is going to have to go through the curation DAO. Yeah.
All right. Then Chaos is asking whether there's a platform coin, and if so, are there any info about the tokenomics yet?
Yeah. So Stars is going to be the native staking and governance token. NFTs are going to be priced in Stars, and obviously is going to be used for validator staking and delegation and all that stuff as well. And yeah, the tokenomics is going to be. So I'm writing a post. So a post about this stuff is coming up soon. Um, but it's going to be kind of a mix between Bitcoin and Osmosis. So it's going to start off with higher inflation, and then every year is going to be reduced by 1/3. So yeah, very similar to Osmosis, where it's front loaded.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that works. I'm actually surprised how well it works on Osmo in terms of like the price stability. I think everyone was expecting for Osmo to go down a lot with those high liquidity rewards and yield farming and staking rewards also, but it seems to kind of like work out. As we wrap things up, maybe you can share a little bit of the kind of like October, November roadmap. The kind of like as we're approaching the launch, you already said it a little bit, but maybe like what is the next kind of like dates that people should keep in mind, and then we can talk a little bit about Lisbon.
Yeah, sure. So we're targeting a launch date of the main chain on October 28th. So that's just going to be just the base layer of the chain, and then the governance from both chains, from Osmosis and Stargaze, will have to work out the details of the LBP. So we're going to launch with zero inflation, and then the LBP will happen maybe like a week or two after that, and then a governance proposal will go through to kind of start the chain and start the inflation process, um, and then once the chain has stabilized a little bit, then we're going to start uploading the contracts and the features. So yeah, I'd probably expect that stuff to happen closer to like the end of November.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I think that's a good timing coming up.
Yeah.
The Cosmoverse conference, which is happening
Yeah.
November 5 and 6. You're also coming. Really excited to also meet you in person and have you in Lisbon. Yeah, maybe what's the set? Did you already get your tickets? Is everything sorted out?
We're in the process of it. Yeah, we're gonna get like a house there for the team and everything. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, I saw also like a lot of Cosmos projects that are coming. They're also connecting this to a little bit of a kind of like team building and meeting everyone and catching up with other teams. And yeah, I think you will be on a panel there. Do you already have kind of like some ideas of things that you maybe want to share there? Is there anything that you will announce, or what is the topic going to be?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'll be talking about NFTs, and I'm sure I'll have stuff to announce. You guys are just gonna have to wait for that.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else, final things that you would want to share that you want the community to know? Then please feel free to do that.
Sure. Yeah. You can follow our progress on Twitter at Stargaze Zone, and there we'll be making announcements about the airdrop and the LVP and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just come and follow us over there. And
you have the website. Is it, because right now I think it's only there to kind of like sign up for the newsletter? Is there also an update coming, or?
The website probably won't get updated until we launch the actual NFT market.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Till then, stay active with the cosmonauts and engage on Twitter, and yeah, come to Lisbon to meet Shane in person there. Thank you so much, man, for doing this. Really appreciate this. And yeah, we'll leave all the links also for people if they want to connect or join the Telegram under this video. And yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.